Good morning. Happy Monday, everyone. Give me a second. We're just going to get the screen situated, make sure I can see everything and everyone. Happy Monday, friends. If you're joining me live, say hello in the chat. I can't see who is live from this angle on Zoom. So if you are, I would love for you to say hi. Tell me what you're up to this week with your business. I'd love to know more about your business. Today, we're going to talk about your writing frameworks for content creation. And I want to go through 8 specific frameworks that I think would be beneficial for you to not only understand better, but then to implement. And we're going to break it down in a way that's um, easy, simple to understand, feels easy to process, and feels easy or possible to implement. Maybe not easy, but at least possible is the goal. So we're talking about writing frameworks, and I want to start by naming something that I see all the time, and that is that most business owners are not actually struggling. They don't have something. It's not because they don't have something to say. They're struggling because they don't have a structure for how to say it. And so what happens is you sit down to write a post, you stare at the screen, or maybe you start typing, delete it, rewrite it, and by the end you either post something that feels fine or you don't post at all, and that's not a creativity problem, that's a structure problem. And today we're going to help fix that. We're going to step in the gap and go, how do we fix this structure problem? And anytime you have a structure problem, the conversation we're having is, what foundational framework can we put into play to make that thing work for you 10 out of 10 times? So today we're going to walk through what actually makes a high quality social media post, why frameworks change everything when it comes to consistency. And then I'm going to give you multiple writing frameworks you can use today, right now, or this week. And that way we can stop the guessing game. We can start having a strategic approach to the content creation, and we'll have a better return on investment for our time, energy, and effort. So let's talk about the first thing is like, what makes a quality social media post? I'm so glad you asked. Before we even talk about frameworks, we need to define the standard because not all content is created equal. A high quality social media post is not just something you post today. It has 4 like very specific components when done right. So today posting means you're just going to throw up whatever goes up into your mind. You're going to write it out and then throw it up onto social. But if you're being specific and intentional about what you're writing, your social post should consist of several components. So the first one is a hook. This is um, the very first line, and its only job is to help stop the scroll. And that's it. That's the job. So if your hook doesn't work, nothing else matters. They're not going to read it. They're not going to see it. Doesn't matter. You couldn't have, you could have, sorry, the most brilliant insight in the world, but if nobody reads past the first line, it's not going to be able to do its job. And so I think that this is where people tend to go wrong is they write hooks that are too general, things like happy Monday or just wanted to share something today or here's a tip for your business. And I'm guilty of this too, because sometimes I don't have the brain power to sit and process through what are the hooks, what are the hooks. But the thing is those generic like happy Monday hooks, they don't create curiosity and they don't create urgency. A strong hook does one of 3 things. It speaks directly to a pain point, it calls out a specific identity, or it creates curiosity. So instead here's a marketing tip, one might say, if your content isn't converting, this might be why. Or most women business owners are doing this backwards. Or I used to think consistency was the problem and it wasn't. That's what gets someone to lean in. Now, hook, second component, first component is hook, second component is the message. Once you've earned their attention, now you have to keep it. And this is where your message comes into play. And this is where clarity matters absolutely the most. One post equals one idea, not 5, not 3 half developed ideas or thoughts. one clear focus. You want a clear takeaway. So this is where I want you to think like, if someone reads this, what is the one thing I want them to understand differently? And then you want to build around that. The third component from you've got hook, then you got message, and the third component is the connection layer. And this is the piece most people skip. And it's the reason a lot of content feels flat. You can have a strong hook and a clear message, but if there's no connection, it won't land. Connection looks like a quick story. It could be like a quick story, a real example, a moment of honesty, maybe like you could this is what this actually looked like for me or for my clients. Basically it's what makes your content feel human, and that part is really 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 important. The human connection. People buy because they're emotionally provoked to purchase. They don't necessarily buy because it's, not everything's a necessity, right? Like my coffee, not a necessity. And so not every purchase has a pain point that requires a sense of like true urgency, but that doesn't mean you can't create that sense of urgency through how you write your story, essentially. And then the next part, after you get the connection layer done, so you've got the hook, the message, the connection, then you get the call to action. This is also known as CTA. Your call to action is where you guide the next step, and it needs to be simple and clear. There are only two types of call to actions. There's engagement based, which would be like comment, share, like, reflect, tag, DM. Those are engagement types of call to actions. And then conversion based call to actions would look like click, book, buy, register. Like things that literally that once they click that, it's that they're in a purchasing decision at that point. So where people get stuck is either they don't include one at all or they make it unclear kind of holistically. So instead of like, let me know your thoughts, try describe this, or does this resonate with where you are right now? Tell me in the comments, does this resonate? That's a little bit more human, a little bit more personable. Or you could have like, if this is something you're working through, send me a message. I'd love support. Both are clear, direct, simple, right? Now, that's the components of creating good content. But let's talk before we go into frameworks, I want to talk about why frameworks matter. Now, a good strong post has those components to it. Now, the framework is really, really important. Once you are clear on what you're communicating, then you have a framework to help you remove decision fatigue, create consistency, and position you as the leader that you are in your industry. So, in order for you to um, remove decision fatigue, for example, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time you sit down and write. You're not asking, what should I say? You're asking, how do I say this using a structure I already have or a structure I already trust? And that's a very different level of effort because at that point, now you're just going with the flow and filling things in versus having to think of everything from scratch. And that we reinventing the wheel energy will drain you very fast. And then you also have, when your content has structure, your audience starts to recognize your voice. They know what to expect from you, and consistency builds that trust. And then you have the positioning of yourself as a leader because your content becomes clear, and clarity is what people follow. They don't follow noise or volume or anything else. It's clarity. That's the thing that matters the most. So let's move into that transition. So this is where we get into that practical side. I'm going to walk you through several frameworks you can start using right away. And I'm going to be using these as I write my content for both the company and for our clients. So pay attention. I trust that these will be helpful for you. And as we go through them, I want you to think which of these feels natural to have or to how I already speak, because that's where you want to start is whatever connects with you the most naturally. So hang in there with me. We have, let's see, one, two, we have doo, 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 eight. We have eight frameworks. So I'm going to try to get through these in about 10 minutes. So hang in there with me. So the first one is our favorite, and it's the story framework. And the story framework essentially looks like this: problem, struggle, solution, result. And this one is, in my opinion, the most powerful framework you can use every time. So I'll put this in the chat for you. This is where people this is powerful because people remember stories. An example is, here was the problem I was facing. Here's what I actually look like in real life. Here's what shifted, and here's the result. You can use this for client results, personal experiences, and business lessons. So be mindful of what you're writing and use the framework like a fill in the blank. Start with the problem, write that. What's the struggle? Write that. What's the solution? Write that. What's the result? Write that. And then add that call to action at the end. The second one is the before and after. And this one I'll put in the chat for you as well. I'm going to put them all in the chat. This one is where things started, and this is where they are now. So so you're showing literally like what it looked like before, what it looked like after, but you're also speaking it. So it's a part of your messaging. And then you can bridge the gap. And this works incredibly well for transformation based businesses. So if you're an interior decorator, or if you do renovations, if you do health and wellness, anything that has that transformation is really is going to perform well in the before and after framework. It's simple, it's clear, and effective. So before, after, that's it. It's very simple. The third one is mistake, truth, solution. So this is a teaching framework. And if you're trying to position yourself as an authority in your industry, you might want to consider this framework for yourself. So the way that this one works is, here's what most people are doing wrong. That's the mistake. And then here's what's actually true. That's the truth. And then the third component is here's what to do instead, which is the solution. This framework, mistake, truth, solution, um, will help you, put this in the chat, will help position you as an authority without being overwhelming, essentially. And you're going to need that when you are trying to disrupt your industry and be above the white noise of your industry, because there's always a little bit of white noise in every industry. The fourth is myth reality. And this is a great one for thought leadership. So, LinkedIn users, this is good for you. The myth or the myth to reality, this one is common belief to your perspective to reframe. So people think they need to post every day. In reality, they need to post better structure, or they need a better structure, right? So it's from myth to reality. I like this framework when trying to help people with a little bit of their mindset in this core area um, of whatever it is that I'm teaching, because there's a lot of myths versus reality, such as, like, we've talked about this all year long if you've been following our journey. It's not about doing more marketing, it's about doing the right marketing. It's about having a clear message and being positioned. You don't need more, you need structure, right? All of those messages that we have been talking about all year long lean into the myth of you've heard it said hustle culture is the way to go, but we're saying that no, that leads to burnout. The real way to go is to have a structure and a foundation to build on so that you do not burn out and so that your systems are repeatable from myth to reality that makes you an authority and a leader in your industry. All right. Number 5, step-by-step process. This works really well when your audience is looking for clarity and direction. So the step-by-step process is like the 1, 2, 3 of whatever it is that they need to be doing. And you want to make sure it is as simple as like the 1, 2, 3. If it is more complicated than that, you're likely to lose them. So keep it, people do things in threes. They like to do things in threes. There's some buyer psychology behind that. So, like, for example, when you're writing messaging about maybe let's see, writing messaging about joining your membership or your service or whatever it is that you do. Maybe step 1 is to uh, click here and register. Step 2 is to check your email, and step 3 is to book your call, right? So you just keep it really simple, clear language, and that way they can follow those steps right into whatever it is that you have created for them to work with you on. Then we have problem, agitation, solution, call to action. And this is a conversion framework. So I'm going to put this one in the chat because I know everybody's going to want this one. When you are writing in a conversion framework, you want to name the problem, and then you're going to want to deepen the awareness of it. So it's almost like you find the bruise and you push it a little harder, metaphorically, of course. So you want to name the problem, then you want to deepen the awareness, that's the agitation. Then you want to present the solution, which is whatever thing you've created or whatever product you have. And then you want to invite the action. I have to stop here to remind you that not inviting them to participate in your program or to come into your shop or whatever it is that you do to work together is a missed opportunity. People want the invitation, so don't forget to invite. That's what that call to action's for. So, problem, agitation, solution, call to action. Name the problem, deepen that awareness of that problem, present the solution, and invite the action. Now, the next one, I like this one as well. I like them all because they're all beneficial in their own way. This next one, this is the 7th one, is belief, backstory, and lesson. So let me put this in here. And this is really good for personal brand content. Something you believe, where that came from, and what it means for your audience. That's essentially what you're writing. So, something I believe is I believe in ethical marketing, and this comes from working in retail. And what that means for my audience is that we're never going to take advantage of them pricing. We'll always match prices or whatever, right? Just as an example. But that belief system moved into a backstory of explanation gives the person the understanding so that they can capture the lesson and therefore emotionally make that purchase. So it's a very effective writing style. And then the question led framework. This is this one is good. I would challenge you to do this with your audience. Um, in various ways to see how they respond. Not all audiences are going to respond, but essentially the question-led framework is you ask a question, like a strong question, and then you give context and then you invite the response. And that helps with people getting more attached to the responding piece. We want them to engage with you holistically when it comes to what you're doing or what you're promoting. So now that's all the frameworks that I want to share with you today. There's lots of other ones, but that's all the frameworks I'm going to share with you today. I want to talk about now, how do you choose the framework? Because, it's a lot of information. There's a lot of stuff here. You've got 8 different frameworks story framework, then you have the before and after, then you have mistake, truth, solution for the teaching framework, the myth versus reality, step by step, problem, agitation, solution, call to action, which is that conversion framework, the belief backstory lesson one, which is for that personal brand, and that question led, which is framework for that for engagement posts. These frameworks help you to write higher quality and higher value content. So it's important that you're not just saying, like, here's my service, buy my service. I mean, I would love to live in that world because as a marketer, they make my job very easy. However, it's just not the reality of how people make purchases. So you've got to be able to dig a little bit deeper in order to pull them through. Now, how making a choice on how to choose the right framework, you don't need to use all of them. You need to use the right one really for your moment in time. So I want you to ask yourself, is this post meant to engage? Is it meant to teach? Is it meant to convert? And then let whatever that goal is that you've set for yourself, let that goal decide the structure or the framework that you choose to write in. This is a power move for you. And it's a power move for your writing style and for your social media experience because as you go through and practice these frameworks in your writing style, you can keep track of which ones you're using and then identify which ones perform the highest by looking at your backend analytics on your social media page. And then once you've identified the content that performs the highest, that can lead to you boosting that content or repurposing that content. Or recreating it in a different way in order to get the engagement back on it. You have more options when you're writing higher value content to reuse it in a meaningful way. So I'm curious, if you were to write a post today, let's say you have a service-based business, you're going to write a post today. Which post are you, or which framework are you going to lean to? Feel free to drop it in the chat. I'm curious to know. Now, here's what I want you to take away from today. And I know we're ending a little bit sooner than the 30 minutes, but this is what I have for you today. So the thing is that we want to make sure that you have better structure because structure creates clarity and clarity creates confidence and confidence creates consistency. It is a lot easier to do something repetitiously when we don't feel insecure about what we're doing. When you first start something and it feels like you're pushing a boulder up a hill and trying wet cement, you're not going to want to repeat that. So, keeping things simple and giving yourself a framework or two or three that you can rotate through to help provoke better writing and better content for your business is just you caring well for your business. So if this is helpful for you, I want you to tell me in the comments what framework you're going to use first. And as always, join me every Monday for Marketing Monday and every Wednesday for Business Wednesday, both at 9 a.m. And if you're ready to take the next step in your business journey and actually build a content system that works for your business, I'd love to support you. So if you want to book a call with me, feel free to do that. I will drop my calendar link for you in the chat, and you can click on that and book a free 30-minute consult with me. We can get to know each other a little bit more and you can see what you're up to. And we also want to invite you to join our sisterhood if you're not a part of that. If you do not have a community of like minded women supporting you day in and day out, you are going to want to join our CEO sisterhood. And I'm going to put that link in the chat. And I actually have one more thing I want to give you in the chat as well. Give me 1 second. Here's our sisterhood link. Please check it out. I highly recommend you getting in community. Do not do this business journey by yourself because you deserve to have a group of like-minded women behind you, supporting you and cheering you on. And then the last thing is we launched our ticket sales for our sixth annual Women's CEO Summit, and early bird pricing is available if you're looking to save a little bit of money. and you want to join an empowering experience, this year's sixth annual Women's CEO Summit Intensive is a little bit different. And what makes it different is we are turning that day into a CEO working day. So you need to come prepared to work, roll up your sleeves. We're going to actually achieve things. We're going to leave with clarity, better decision making, and strategy to help move our businesses both through the close of the year and into the new year. So you're not going to want to miss it. Get your tickets now. We only have a limited amount of space. It is at the Barn at Brambleton, the last Friday of September. So check that link out as well. And yeah, we hope to see you. You are welcome to join our community. My name is Jillian. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.